Good morning, grade 10s. Yesterday you had to fill in a certain amount of terminology. So I want to mark this quickly. Let's start at the very top. Before we start, this terminology is very important. If you do not understand it, it's going to be difficult to continue with the topic because they refer to this continuously, and these are also used when explaining advantages, disadvantages, and characteristics. But I'm sure you will understand them. Let's see. The first one is natural person. Now, natural person refers to any individual like you and me. We have our own identity document. A legal person refers to companies and organizations, and to have a legal personality means to be capable of having legal rights, like entering into a contract or being sued. Therefore, we say that some businesses either have a legal personality or they don't. Now, if a business has a legal personality, meaning the business can enter into contracts and not by the owner. It's the business that enters into contracts. So if the business has a legal personality, the business enters into a contract, and then we also say the business is a separate legal entity. When the business has a separate legal entity, or when they are a separate legal entity, we say that there's limited liability. What is meant by liability? When you are liable for something, it means you are responsible and accountable for it. Now, in a business sense, limited liability is always a good thing because there is limitation to the accountability for debts that is incurred by owners. Unlimited liability means that the owner can be held responsible for all the debts incurred by the business. So limited liability is a good thing. Unlimited liability is not so good because this limits this limits the protection the owners have in a company. So if we had to conclude the difference between limited and unlimited liability, we can say that unlimited liability means there is no distinction between the business and the owner. They are seen as one. Limited liability means there is distinction between the owners and the business. Therefore, we say the business is a separate legal entity. Let's go on to the next one, Memorandum of Incorporation, also shortened as MOI. They will be talking about this quite often, especially when we go to companies or we work with companies. The MOI is a governing document for companies in South Africa. Now, a governing document sets out the rights and responsibilities of shareholders and directors. An MOI is obtained from the CIPC. Now, I know the CIPC was not in your terminology, so you will find it when you go through the notes. If you want to, you can make a note of it. The CIPC stands for Companies and Intellectual Properties Commission. Now, when you want to obtain an MOI, you do this when you register a company. The CIPC provides the MOI to the company, and this governs and shows the rights and responsibilities for the directors and the shareholders. A company must always have the MOI ready at hand. Now, to register a company at the CIPC, you need an incorporator, and you will see that an incorporator is at the very bottom in an orange block. So the incorporator is someone you need to facilitate the process of registration. So they will be the ones signing the documents. Then we have directors and shareholders, also at the very bottom. What is the difference between a director and a shareholder? A director is basically managing the business, and he or she sits on the board of directors of the company. While a shareholder is someone that owns a part of the business because he or she bought shares. And shares are also called securities or stock. And that brings us to a security register. What is a security register? If securities are shares, and register we know is a document. Then if you break down the word, you can then identify that a securities register is a document showing who currently owns shares in the company, the amount of shares owned, and the shares available. Then at the very top in the blue block, you see surety. What is surety? When I say to you, you need to stand surety for something, it means you need to step forward and you need to take accountability and responsibility for something. Now, in a business sense, when someone stands surety, we can say that they accept the debt by standing surety. They accept the debt for someone else by standing surety. Continuity. Then let's look at continuity. Continuity means that something can continue. So if we say continuity exists, it means that the business or the company will continue even if there's a change of ownership. A change of ownership can be maybe the owner retires or maybe the owner passes away. Even then, if continuity exists, it means the business will continue to operate. If continuity does not exist, it means if there's a change of ownership, the company or the business ceases to exist. And this is the case in a sole trader. Then the last definition or terminology that we have is corporate governance. Now, corporate governance, when we get to companies, you will hear about this. Corporate governance is normally a burden, because it means that there's a big responsibility the company has for its shareholders. This means that every single thing they do, every single operation needs to be transparent. Transparency with managing money, transparency with making decisions. Okay. Then one more thing that I would like to add that is not on your terminology page or activity is auditing. Now, when a business audits their records or their financials, this means that they check their books. There's many things that can be audited, but when they audit something, it means they check their books to make sure everything is transparent. If you look on, I'm trying to find your government notes. If you look on your government notes for forms of ownership, you will see that on page 'Sorry, it's just loading. On the first few pages, there's a list of terms and definitions. And at the very bottom, there's a definition for auditing. There's also many other definitions, but specifically for auditing, you will see that they say it's the process where an organization's accounts are checked to make sure its financial operations are honest. Okay, I hope this helps.